We are here with Lance Bradley and Clint Brasher to discuss hurricane and windstorm claims on the Bolivar Peninsula or surrounding areas. Because these types of claims are covered by policies from the Texas Windstorm Association or TWIA, we'll be discussing that policy and how it works. Lance, did you want to go ahead and introduce yourself and your connection to the peninsula?
Sure. I'm Lance Bradley. I've been practicing law for over 30 years. I have an office in Port Neches and Crystal Beach. In addition to an office law firm in Crystal Beach, also am a business owner with Swedes Real Estate and have some other business ventures there as well.
Okay. All right. Clint?
Yes, Clint Brasher. My main office is in Beaumont. I'm from Southeast Texas. Me and Lance have kind of partnered up in the past to work on cases like this, but I've been doing insurance, representing policyholders in claims against their insurance companies for a little more than 20 years, trying to helping people get paid what they're owed by their policy. And I own a house in the peninsula. I am on Bolivar.
All right. Well, my name's Christina. I work for the Brasher Law Firm. I do intake, and I get questions like this all the time. So I'm excited to get this content out here and hopefully help educate people dealing with these types of claims. First of all, Clint, what is the difference between a TWIA policy and a regular homeowner's policy?
Yeah, I think that's what the very first thing that jumps out is that your windstorm coverage on the peninsula is a little different than it would be if you lived inland. And many people there probably have their standard fire policy or homeowners policy plus the TWIA policy and maybe a flood policy. The TWIA policy covers windstorm damage, and it is a separate creature. It has separate rules that govern it in terms of making claims and getting paid on claims and deadlines that you have to adhere to as part of the claim process as you, the policy holder, and me, the lawyer, if I represented you. So TWIA is a little bit different. They've amended the TWIA law after Hurricane Ike, and so it has some real tricky language in it and deadlines, and we're going to cover some of that today.
Right. Thank you. I kind of want to start from the beginning. How do people know when they should make a claim?
Yeah, I'll take that one. I'll share a personal story just real quick. I was an injury lawyer, and back in 2005 when Rita hit, we had evacuated, and about 2.5 weeks later, someone told us that we had exposed decking on our roof, meaning some of the shingles were missing. We didn't have a lot of shingles that were missing, just some, and where those shingles were missing, that water was going to be in our house, and we didn't have a clue what that meant. And when we went home, we saw the damage and we filed a claim, and our insurance company said they would make it right for us and get us back. Well, my home was just a couple years old, and my builder said he could fix it for $90,000, I think, or $85,000, something like that. And my insurance company paid me about a third of that. And since then, I've made it my mission in life to try to help people through this process because felt like it could happen to me. I can't imagine how difficult it must be for a non-lawyer to deal with that. So one of the things I think that you look for when you're deciding, hey, should I make a claim? Should I not make a claim? Was obviously if there's water getting in your house, in your structure there, your beach home. If there's water getting in, you can see it either on the ceilings, around the windows and doors, anything like that. If water's getting in after one of these events, like a hurricane barrel, that's something that should raise a flag of alarm to you. If you look at the roof, and I know it's hard to see those roofs up there, they're pretty high up there, but if you can see that you're missing shingles or there's torn shingles or lifted shingles or anything like that, or if you see any of the decking, if any of that's visible, you're going to have water damage. It doesn't have to be that though. It could just be lifted shingles, or if you have a metal roof, the panels could have lifted. Any of those things that would give you some suspicion that you had wind damage. Other indicators are on your property if things blew away, if heavy items moved, Obviously, those things are also signals to you that, hey, I had some serious wind at my property. And the wind, the way it works is it could be different in one neighborhood to the next, even as small as the peninsula is. So those are things that I would be on the lookout for to see if, hey, do I have something I should make a claim about?
I think that sometimes it's not always very obvious that you need to make a claim, right? If you're not specifically going out and looking for damages, if someone finds out and it's been a few months since the storm or the wind event, when is it too late to open a claim?
Well, the good rule of thumb is make it as quickly as you can, right? And I know some people maybe aren't getting there all the time. Maybe they are in their homes in and out, on a monthly basis, but you should make the claim as quickly as you can. But under the TWIA policy, you have 1 year from the date of loss. And that's important to know. So you should flag that down. You have a year from the date of that event to make the claim. And so remember that, but do make it as quickly as you can.
I think that's probably the most important thing for people to realize, because I think a lot of people think that you have 2 years generally to make a claim, which is true for most things, except for the TWIA policy, which they shortened for all the policyholders. So it's an important fact to keep in mind.
Yeah, thank you, Lance. What should a homeowner expect to happen after that claim is opened? Is there kind of a regular protocol or that they follow?
Yeah. So they'll assign an adjuster and they'll coordinate a time to go out and inspect the property. I would recommend that you be there with the adjuster if you can, or have someone represent you there, a friend, a contractor, somebody that can identify and point out the things that concerned you about what happened to your property. And then they'll do their inspection, and then within so many days, a week, 2 weeks, you'll get a response back from TWIA as to whether or not they're going to pay you any money or no money. And I'll let Lance talk about what you do with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lance, what do you do if you actually do get a payment?
Well, if you do get a payment, first off, you need to determine whether or not it's adequate to cover the loss that you have. If it's not, then the number one question is folks want to know is, what can I do with this check, since I don't think it covers the damages that I have. And the response is that you can cash the check. The way I always like to look at it is you and the insurance company at least agree your damages are that amount at a minimum. And you do have a duty to protect your property. So even if you don't think you have enough money to cover your losses, you have to do the best you can to preserve and protect your property while you continue to try to get further compensation from the insurance company.
So Lance, we get this question a lot. I just want to make sure I heard you right. Someone gets a check in the mail from their insurance company, they can cash it, right?
Absolutely. They absolutely can and should as soon as possible, and then try to take measures to preserve and protect their property the best they can with what they've received.
All right. Thank you so much for that information. I do think we get that question a lot. People are a little bit afraid to move. If I cash this check, does that mean that I think this is it? That's all of it, that they're right? And so you clearly answered that as a no. What if they pay for part of the damage, but then say this isn't storm damage when you think it is? So it's, you're getting some money, but then they deny other portions of the claim.
Yeah, and I was going to address this later, but I guess I'll go ahead and do this now. And there is a pitfall in this TWIA policy that people need to be aware of. And at the end of this presentation, I'll show you what this document looks like. How about that? Because I'd like to hear Lance talk about the types of policies that TWIA covers. But if they accept part of it and deny part of it, that's pretty common. If they deny the parts that they denied, they will write out, you have 2 years to challenge that. So don't forget these deadlines. You have 1 year to make your claim. So don't be confused there. But if they deny your claim or any part of it, the parts that were denied, you have 2 years to challenge that denial. The part that they accepted, and I'm going to say it here, and then we're going to come back to this in a minute, 'cause it's so important. the part that they accepted, let's say they accepted your roof, but they didn't pay you enough for your roof, you only have 60 days to contest the amount that they paid you on the part they accepted. And that's the part I want everyone to know about. And there's certain things you have to do to protect yourself with that. And I'm going to show you a document in a minute. But Lance, before we get into some of that technicality stuff,
Yeah.
like you are, I've known you since I was heck, I knew you, I met you before I was even licensed. So you're a great, famous trial lawyer in my mind in these areas, but you're also a businessman, and you have a lot of things going on. Does the TWIA policy, does it cover commercial things, or is it just people's own personal beach houses?
No, it absolutely covers commercial properties as well, or businesses. And so normally the policy will cover your structure. If you have a business and you own the real estate in the building where you operate in, it would cover that. In addition, you can have coverage for your inventory, whatever similar to contents in your home, it would be inventory at your business. If you also purchase what's called business interruption coverage, then you could have a claim for any loss of income that you can show is attributed to the windstorm damage that you've had. On the residential side, if you have additional living expenses or loss of use, then you could recover having to stay in a hotel or somewhere other because your home is damaged, recover the cost to do that. And other living expenses that you're incurring because you are out of your home. And so there are different types of coverages for your home and your business, but it just depends on what you purchase and what is on your declarations page from the insurance company.
I know a lot of people have these as investment properties. They may live there, but then have a couple as investment properties. What about loss of rents? Like, do you know anything about that? Would that be covered?
Sure. I think the loss of rents would be covered as well as part of what I refer to as a business interruption coverage. I think that's similar terminology, but yes, loss of rents, if you're unable to rent your property as you historically have done due to windstorm damage, then that is a recoverable item, assuming that you have the coverage purchase that coverage through your policy.
Talk to us about that. How do you know? What should people look at if they're trying to say, hey, what did I pay for? What do they look at?
The easiest thing to do is look at the declarations page. And years and years ago, that declarations page used to be the very first document or very first page of a policy. But it seems like now they tend to have it about 10 or 12 pages back in the policy sometimes, and it's not always as easy to find. So you need to find the declarations page, and that will list out the exact coverages that you have and the limit of coverage that you have for each thing. So like we were talking a minute ago, if you have a structure, your business or your home, it will have a dollar amount of coverage that you purchased for that. If you have contents for your home or inventory at your business, likewise, it should specify the amount of coverage there. So that one page, that deck page, is the go-to to look exactly at what coverage you purchased and that you have.
Let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to put one up on the screen.
Sure.
It's going to make us go away for a second, but let me see if I can do this right. Is that big enough for you? Can you guys all see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now this isn't a commercial one. This is a dwelling one, but is this what you're talking about, Lance?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you can see down at the bottom, it lists out the different coverages, and off to the right, it has the limit of coverage that you purchased that you may be entitled to if you can show that the damages were caused due to wind.
Okay, and then you mentioned these losses right here. We've talked about. They're called indirect, like additional living expenses, and it has another one here, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But it has wind-driven rain and consequential loss. But this is what people should pull, whether it's for their business or for their dwelling. That way they can say, hey, here's what I bought. Here's what I got.
That's right. You should always have that in a safe place, before the storm comes so that you have ready access to it in the event you need it.
Okay. And if people have questions about that, like, I know we're teaming up here. That's something that you or I, we're happy to answer those for free, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, Christina, I interrupted your Q&A, but
No, that's okay. That was perfect. I get a lot of questions about the additional living expenses. I feel like for the majority of people, they understand that it can cover things like a hotel or even a little rental property if you can get something for a short-term, lease. But what are some other common additional living expenses that people may not necessarily think about?
Mileage is something that you should keep track of. You can recover for mileage as well as your hotel. If you have additional expenses for food that you would not normally have if you were in your home, that's something that can also be collected. The key is to document on all of that and make sure you save all your receipts. And sometimes the insurance company will actually, you may have to incur those expenses, actually pay for them before getting reimbursed by your insurance company. So you just have to look and see what the policy says. But in general, anything that you incur to survive or to live because you can't stay in your home is something to keep track of and to submit to your insurance company for reimbursement.
So if I have like significant water damage and my clothes get all wet and I think I can save them, is something like that, if I bring it to the cleaners and they clean those clothes, is that an expense I could claim?
Absolutely.
yeah, and one comment I would make is, like those clothes are covered whether you have to clean them or replace them. I mean, I think you bought that coverage. And one thing, Lance mentioned this earlier, but I want to, just like he said, document on your mileage and receipts. But same thing for contents, right, Lance? Like if someone,
Exactly.
a lot of people don't have their original receipts for their property. Let's say their property got wet or destroyed, wind blown, or however it gets damaged. What's a real simple way for people to document those damages?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to try and document your content items by room. Just think about each room and visualize it and think about everything you have in that particular room that may have been damaged, and then list it out and off to the side, put, where you purchased it, if you can recall, the approximate age, and if you know the cost, that's great as well. Obviously, if you have a receipt, that's the best evidence that you can produce. With the internet these days, it's pretty easy to get online and find just about any item you might have, and it can give you an estimate of value to include as well. So the key is to, again, to document very specific, help the insurance company want to pay you for those contents. Don't make it hard for them, make it as easy as possible for them.
If you have a lot of damaged content and there's been a significant amount of water or something in your property and it's smelling and you feel like your mitigation team, whoever's working on your property, is telling you to get it out of there, is it okay? Should you pile it up in your yard? Can you discard it once you take the pictures? Like, what should you do in that situation?
I think it's always better if the adjuster is able to see all of that firsthand, I guess, before you move it out. But obviously, you also have an obligation to mitigate or to ease the damages that you have, and to the extent you need to move things out in order to preserve the remainder of your property, then absolutely it is okay to do that, as long as you, again, document, photograph, and detail exactly what you did and why you did it.
I want to add right there because I've handled thousands of cases at this point, and I get this. I've had this happen probably 20% of the time in these bad waters. The client will say, "Well, the adjuster told me I could just throw it all away," and then later on, when they don't get paid for those contents, the lawyers dispute that, and they'll say, we didn't see, there's no evidence that anyone said you should throw it away. Here's what my advice is, exactly what Lance said, but do not throw anything away until that adjuster sees it, whether it's in a pile in your yard or it's in your house still, or you stick it in one room or whatever you do. Take photos of it, document it, video it with your phone. That's easy. And don't throw it away until the adjuster looks at it.
And when people are making their damaged contents list and they don't have receipts and they're not sure about how old the item is or what it costs, what did you say would be the best, I mean, does that mean that, does that release the insurance company of giving me any money for it at all, like it never existed? What do you do in that situation?
No, it absolutely does not release the insurance company. Again, you do the best you can. People accumulate things over a lifetime, and it's obviously you're not going to remember every detail about every item that might get damaged. But again, you do the best you can to list it out, approximate age. If you know the value, great. But again, you can get online and Google whatever item that, say, a couch is damaged. You don't remember the value or something. You can probably find something similar online, print out the picture of it, which has a value, and that gives you a starting point with the insurance company to have an idea of what the value of your contents are that needs to be considered.
What do I do if like I have a couch, for instance, that gets stormwater on it, and my adjuster's telling me, oh, it'll dry out. It's still usable. It's still functional. You should still be able to keep it. Can I get rid of it? Do I have to keep it because they told me I should? Or is that storm water, like specifically like hurricane water? I don't really know what's in it. How do you feel
Well,
about something like
no,
that?
you're not obligated to take the adjuster's opinion on that or anything else for that matter. So, if you can salvage something by cleaning it, steam cleaning, whatever, then obviously that's great and that's what you should do. But when we all know when things get wet, mildew, moisture, all of those things are a problem, and likelihood of replacement is a lot higher than being able to clean it and salvage it. So you don't have to take their opinion, but again, the thing is to document what you do, and if you get a replacement, you need to document why you did it and photograph and the damage so you can prove why you did what you did.
Thank you. Getting more back to the dwelling or the structure of the business. If they're sending an adjuster out and he's saying that parts of the damage are not included and then other parts are, what do I do in that situation when I've got, obviously I live in the property or I have access to it. I didn't have any of these problems before the storm hit. My contractor seems to think it's part of the damage, but my insurance company is telling me it's settling or wear and tear. What should I do in that situation?
Yeah, I'll take this. Can I start by giving let me start with the easier one. Let's start with, that's the harder question, Christina. So, but before that, what if they just say no? What if they just say, we're not paying you? I want to show you what that looks like. And we've already given you this, but this is a typical no. So it would be, here's your cover sheet, and it says, see your attached letter, and there's the letter, and then there's the decision right there. So you'll see, hey, we're denying your claim. And then they say, we deny your claim in full. Now, if this is the situation, this is pretty easy. You have 2 years to challenge this. So my advice to you is, if you disagree with this, you should talk to a lawyer. Like, you should go and consult with a lawyer to find out what about this denial that you feel like is something that bothers you and you don't agree with. I generally have found in my career that my clients tend to guide me to the reasonable things. And if I just listen, they'll get me to the point that's probably unreasonable. And the general rule of this is really important. When do insurance companies have to pay you for your claim? It's when liability for that claim is reasonably clear. It doesn't have to be crystal clear. Tie goes to you. If you like baseball, it's tie goes to the runner. You're the runner. So if it's a close call, they should find a way to cover your loss. But if you get that full denial, you have 2 years. Now, what Christina asked, and I'm going to show you, and I've got now, is here's what we see a lot. And can you see that okay, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you see is part of your claim's accepted and part of it's denied. Now, they'll come through here and they'll say, here's the part of your claim that we accepted. Like right here, they accepted the rear elevation. And then that's the part that they issued a payment. But in this case, they said that amount of damage wasn't as high as your deductible. So they didn't get a payment here. But they did accept part of the claim. Now, what do you do about that if they accept your claim but don't pay you enough money for the part that they accepted? And there is treacherous ground that you're on right here. And this is something that I want everybody to know. Lance wants everybody to know. We care a lot about the people there. And you're not going to see it. It's that deadline's not going to jump out. If you notice at the end of this page, they'll tell you there are deadlines that apply to disputing the amount that they accepted. That's what that says. Now, they don't tell you what that deadline is. In fact, you have to scroll down. This is the part they denied. You know, you have 2 years on all this. You got to scroll down again and scroll down again into the letter. You still don't have it. You don't know what your deadline is. You've got to go to the FAQs they give you. And then right here in this section, that's I lost count, maybe page 6.
6 or 7 at least.
6 or 7. And it's on page 2 of it. It's right here. You have 60 days. I highlighted it. 60 days to challenge the part that they accepted. And the only way you can challenge that is through appraisal. So the first thing I want everyone to know is if they got part of their claim accepted, or maybe all of their claim accepted, maybe they didn't deny any part of your claim. You have, but you think they didn't pay me enough money. I can't fix it. I can't put my home back or my business back the way it was prior to the storm with the amount of money they paid me. You have 60 days from the date that letter, it says right here, after you receive this letter. So 60 days from the letter to challenge it. And the only way you can challenge it then is by going to appraisal. So this is important. That's another real technical thing. My advice to you, to everyone, now this is for informational purposes. We don't represent anybody watching this video. We're happy to talk to you. But my advice to you, if you were my mom, I would say, if you get a letter like this and you don't think it's the right amount of money, I would advise you to consult with a lawyer and say, hey, what should I do next? How do I do this appraisal? Because appraisal is a whole nother thing that's going to cost money. You got to select someone to go and write an estimate for all your damages. And usually contractors only are going to write the part that they want to work on. So you need kind of someone that's going to write an estimate like the insurance company did. And you need to get that done. You need to notify TWIA first within the 60 days that you don't agree with what they paid you and that you would like to go to appraisal. My recommendation is to get someone experienced with this process, a lawyer, someone that has that kind of expertise and has people that they can hire to do this appraisal for you. We pay our appraisers by the hour, so they don't have any incentive. They have no bias. They don't have an interest in your claim to give us the kind of line by line adjustment, just like TWIA got for you, so we can figure out what that amount of loss is. So you might ask, well, how much does appraisal cost? I would say on average, anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000 is what I've seen over 20 years of doing this, depending on who you hire. And it's a process. But I just want to circle back and say one more time, if they accepted your claim or even a part of your claim, the only remedy, the only way you have to challenge how much they paid you for the part they accepted is the appraisal. And you've got to tell TWIA within 60 days of your letter that, hey, I'm not happy with the amount you paid me. I think it's wrong. And I want to take the next step to challenge that, which would be appraisal.
Clint, I think that's a great explanation. Most people, when they hear the term appraisal, they don't think of anything like you just described. Appraisal is someone going out and just telling you what your property's worth. And that whole process is even foreign to a lot of lawyers. A lot of lawyers are not familiar with the process at all. So in addition to the short time frame of 60 days, then they throw in this foreign procedure that most people don't understand or appreciate. So that's all a great explanation for that.
Well, and
Yeah,
the
it's not a real
policyholder,
estate appraisal. Yeah,
That's right. And that's what
we
everybody thinks of when they
yeah,
hear the word.
yeah. And yeah, go ahead, Christina.
well, I was going to say, like, they have to pay for that. Like, I would have to pay for that, not my insurance company.
That's right. You would pay for your appraiser. So if you hire a lawyer, someone like me or Lance or someone else that does this that has experience, make sure your lawyer knows what they're doing. Make sure they understand that, not only do they know insurance policies and experience there, but they also know the TWIA policies because it's different. Appraisal works differently inside of the TWIA policy than it does a normal homeowner's policy. But yeah, we would hire someone. And by the way, just to give you an idea, Lance and I would hire someone with experience in TWIA policies and in the TWIA process because the TWIA, the way it is you pick an appraiser, they pick an appraiser, and then the two of them pick an umpire. And so and then they give you a list. TWIA does. You don't get to just pick any old umpire. It's got to be in their little universe. So Lance or I would say you make sure whoever you're hiring is familiar with TWIA, with the rules, with the policy, and all that. And that's important. And again, 60 days from the letter, you've got to start you don't have to finish the appraisal within 60 days. You just have to tell them within 60 days, I don't agree and I want to participate in appraisal. And here's the name of my appraiser. And so we pay for that. So we front that expense for our clients and we carry that cost the whole time. And for people like Lance and I, we don't charge by the hour. So you might ask Christine, I don't know if it was on how can people afford to hire a lawyer? Did I steal one of your
That was
questions?
my next question. You've mentioned kind of a couple of consults. You should consult an attorney. Like, how much is that going to cost everyone, right?
Well, Lance, you want to take this?
Yeah, so you don't pay us anything unless or until we get you a recovery. It's a contingent fee contract, which means a percentage of the recovery is what is paid to us for our time, in addition to the out-of-pocket expenses that we may pay to work on your case, like the appraiser that Clint just mentioned. So there's a stair-step percentage depending on what stage of the claim we're able to get it resolved. If we get it resolved at an early stage, then the percentage is lower. If we end up having to go through appraisal and potentially file a lawsuit, then the percentage goes up, obviously because of the time commitment and level of work that's going to be required at that stage.
Now, hold on, Lance. What if someone came to us and said, I'm not happy with what I got paid, but I've already been paid $20,000. Are you going to take a percentage of that?
Absolutely not. Whatever you have coming in the door is yours to keep. You're never going to go backwards by hiring us. And so if you have an amount that you've already received prior to hiring us or any other attorney, that should be your money without any percentage coming out of it. So our fee would only be based on, I guess, what I would call new money that we may get because of the work we do for you.
Hey, did you have a question, Christina? I'm sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, so like in a situation where I've gotten a denial and I think that my roof damage is valid, I never had any roof issues before, and I reach out, I schedule a consult that's free. If I hire you and then you send someone else to my property or you invoke appraisal and you don't get anything, I don't owe you anything, is what you're
Zero.
telling me?
That's exactly right. If we don't get you a recovery, then you don't owe us a dime, and whatever we spend on your behalf is just it's part of doing business on our side that we absorb.
All right, I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Can I talk about one other thing? I know we're about done. We've gone long enough, but I want to talk about one other thing that's important with the TWIA policy is that, again, it's not like your typical homeowner's policy. It covers some things that a homeowner's policy wouldn't cover. And I want to show you what that is. We looked at a deck page earlier, and I just want to show you this deck page again. And I want you to see right here, this word, wind-driven rain. And you can see it's an extension of coverage, wind-driven rain. And someone paid for this. They paid $300. So number one advice is if maybe you didn't have damage, but you have a TWIA policy and you live on the peninsula, check your policy. If you don't have this endorsement, talk to your agent and get this endorsement. It's not going to cost a lot of money on a yearly basis, and it's really important coverage. So the question would be what is wind-driven rain? Well, usually in a standard homeowner's policy, that's not covered. Wind-driven rain would not be a covered loss. You would have to find an opening on the roof or the house that the water came in, and if the water was just blown in through a door or window or something like that, it's not covered. Well, under the TWIA policy, it is covered if you have that endorsement. And so most people do have that endorsement. Most agents are good enough to sell you that endorsement. But I've got on the screen what the actual endorsement looks like. But the bottom line is it's great coverage. And so there are going to be sometimes when water damage to your property in Bolivar is going to be covered when it wouldn't have been covered if it were in Orange, Texas, or Hardin County, Texas, or some parts of Jeff County. And that's because if the water got in through windows for whatever reason, or maybe there's not an opening on the roof, maybe it just blew in through a door, window, that's covered if it was caused by the storm, if you have that endorsement. And I think sometimes what I've heard is from talking to people, sometimes the adjusters, maybe even the adjusters for TWIA, that maybe they don't do a lot of TWIA, maybe they don't understand that. Maybe they're denying damage to people that should be covered because it's wind-driven rain. Because I tell you this, if you say the word wind-driven rain on an inland policy, they're going to exclude it. Right. That's excluded. But in TWIA, if you have that endorsement, that's covered. If you don't have that endorsement, it doesn't mean you don't have a loss. It just means you don't get that easy water damage coverage. It means you have to have an opening on your roof, an unsealed shingle, a lifted roof panel, something like that lets the water in. But yeah, look on there. If you have that wind-driven rain and water got in your home and it was enough to where you're like, that's going to cost me some money, you probably have coverage for that, assuming you have that endorsement.
All right. Well, that's really all the questions I had for this meeting today. If someone wants to schedule a consult, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can call either one of our offices, and we'll get you scheduled and set up a meeting and see what we can do to help you out.
Yeah, and it's free. Again, you can drop all the insurance documents you want. We've seen them all. If you just want someone to look at it and say, hey, were they fair to me? I don't know. Can I get someone to look at this? That's all free. So either Lance's office or our office, please, do that. Or if you know a lawyer that has a lot of experience in this, just make sure they know what they're doing and they know they have experience with this type of loss and they particularly understand how the TWIA policy works.
How do you know? I see ads everywhere, right? Everyone sees billboards and whatnot. Like, how do you know when you've got an attorney's office that has experience in bad faith claims or TWIA specifically?
I think you just have to ask the right questions to whichever lawyer you contact. And, Clint mentioned how he got involved with these type of claims earlier. And I have a similar experience. I had an office in Gulfport, Mississippi that was damaged by Katrina. And then here we are a month later, Rita hits our area and my office here is damaged. So I had two locations damaged within a month of each other. And I found it difficult to get a recovery from the insurance company, which is what made me get interested in those claims and on my own behalf. And then we started also working on claims for other folks. So you just have to ask the right questions. Word of mouth recommendations are always good, but, ask the questions. How many of these cases have you handled in the past? And that should give you some insight as to whether or not you're dealing with the right person to help you out.
Yeah, and you can't hide from Google anymore. Find out if they've gone to court on one of these cases if they've taken one to trial. I think that's the other thing is most of these cases don't go to trial, but does your lawyer at least have the experience? Has he been there before or she's been there before, and have they successfully prosecuted one of these cases all the way through a trial, a jury trial? We've done that multiple times in multiple places. And I think that's something I would always ask. And by the way, I would ask that for anything you're asking, any kind of case you're ever talking to a lawyer about that you need help on, you should ask that question. Hey, have you gone to trial? If you're hiring a trial lawyer, you'd be surprised how many of them have it. So
what if I don't want to go to trial, right? Is that still significant to me if I don't want to end up there?
having a lawyer that has gone to trial will get you more value on your claim and potential settlement than if you had a lawyer that didn't. And so I think it's important. Yeah, most cases don't go to trial. Like Lance could tell you that, it's very, very small percentage, but you have to be willing to.
And, preparing a case with the thought of trial down the road is going to increase your chances of settling it pre-trial tremendously.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have for today. Thank you so much for your time. Any closing remarks?
Appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this, and we're only a phone call away and are here to help if you need it.